I'm Ainsley Lambert. I'm a PhD student here at the University of Cincinnati in the sociology department. I've been here for about 5 years. I came in with a bachelor's degree, so I'm fairly familiar with the university. I've taught over 12 courses between the main campus and Blue Ash. So some of the things that I've been feeling within the past 2 weeks, a lot of it is couched in other feelings that have happened over the years. So the incident with Dean Jackson, the racist cartoon that circulated campus. There was also an email that circulated among faculty, which I was privy to that information, that apparently made fairly openly racist comments about something to the effect of, sorry your diversity hire isn't working out. I also had a conversation there was a race rally on campus maybe last year. There was a silent protest organized by undergraduate students, and I had a conversation with an administrator and was just explaining to her sort of about the email, about this racist cartoon that had circulated, and she made some really troubling comments to me. She said that when the cartoon specifically circulated campus, that someone brought it into the office, and that she said that it was so disgusting that she didn't want to see it, which I think is on the one hand understandable, but when you are an administrator and you specifically work with undergraduate students, you have to know what your students are being exposed to. So while it's uncomfortable for you to engage with that as a white person, I think it's really important, if we are interested in what our students experience, what the climate is on campus, we have to know what our students of color especially are being exposed to. We can't bury our head in the sands and look the other way and wait for it to go away because it's uncomfortable for us. She also didn't understand why the email, she didn't think that sounded racist in any way. And so for me, part of the problem is that the assumption that because even if he was a diversity hire, saying that sorry your diversity hire isn't working out suggests that there is a lack of applicants or qualified applicants that are diversity or people of color, I guess I should say. And so having those kinds of experiences on campus gives me sort of a sense of what the racial climate is on this campus. A lot of looking the other way. I also was a part of the ANS Diversity and Inclusion Committee last year for the graduate sort of portion, graduate students, and on top of some other problematic things, it felt a lot like talk with no walk. It feels like a lot more conversation with less action, just to sort of I guess this is probably not appropriate for the decorum of this, but the CYA kind of thing. That's what it feels like. It feels like, let us do these things to show that we're taking measures for diversity and inclusion, but there's no real action behind them, at least from my perspective. I also attended a diversity workshop that was held at the AACRC, which I can't remember his name, the gentleman here, who's from the outside corporation that they brought in. In some ways, the workshop was good. In a lot of ways, it was not. So when we talk about this diversity ideology can be cloaked in some very shallow understandings of diversity. So this idea, we spent probably 35, maybe more minutes talking about personality differences and how personality differences constitute issues with diversity. That's not the type of diversity that we need. So it feels like the administrators are uncomfortable taking on the hard conversations. Maybe they're not well versed enough in them, maybe they're uncomfortable, maybe it's too controversial, and so it's difficult from that political standpoint to engage in these. But if the university really wants change, it feels like that's what they need to be doing. And if they aren't capable. They need to use the faculty resources that they have here. There are departments that study racial inequities. So like I said, a lot of my feelings these past 2 weeks have been couched in these previous experiences. When the Sandra votes happened, of course it's a part of this Black Lives Matter, this much larger movement that's happening, which the university has also failed to acknowledge. I don't know the university's official stance on Black Lives Matter. We are in a socio-political moment in time that the university is ignoring. And for me, that also makes me feel frustrated, ashamed. I don't want the university speaking for all students when they don't represent all students, because that's not the perspective of many of the students that I know. Let's see, I can look at what else I've written down. So we've had a couple of conversations, so this was sort of one of the first ones, a healing conversation, and yet there was very little discussion from people. We were given about 5 minutes to talk amongst ourselves. It gave one person time to talk, and the other person was cut off in the middle when we were called back to the full room. So for me, it's like we're saying that we want to have conversations, and they're stifled even when we're having them. We also allowed for 4 or 5 questions in a room full of at least 100 people. So how is that really a healing conversation? Who is it healing for? Who are we trying to make feel better about what has happened? And so that's very frustrating for me. Also, because I'm an instructor, I feel like the university doesn't do enough to challenge student culture. I've taught race in my intro to sociology courses. We cover race, and I spend a significant amount of time on it. And I know that students come in with very limited, particularly white students, come in with a very limited understanding of race and racial inequality and how it works, because I think for a lot of them, they aren't able to connect history to what is currently happening. By engaging with students in a classroom where we have readings and we have those difficult conversations, I see my students go from this very shallow, limited understanding to a much more, and I won't say that they get it completely, right? There are some students who go through class and they're impossible to reach, but for the majority of my students, they come out with being able to engage in conversations about race. We get them to a level where they could facilitate change on this campus. And I think that the administration's unwillingness to understand that and make that a core part of our curriculum, right? If we believe in diversity and inclusion, why isn't it a part of our curriculum? Why isn't that part of the courses that students are required to take before their majors, right? Like, why don't they take courses in women's studies? Why don't they take courses in sociology? Why aren't they required to take courses in the Africana Studies department or in the history department, right? That can help them understand the current socio-political moment and how it relates to history, why their perspectives are different than other students. And I honestly think the administrators should have to take the same courses, because just the assumption that because they're well educated that they're also able to have these critical dialogues about conversations that maybe they don't even speak about in their everyday lives, I think is problematic. I think I've talked enough about diversity ideology, this idea that when we talked about personality differences in the workshop, for me, the diversity ideology that we're all the same, we should all, we're all human beings, this idea, which is a very nice sentiment, and I understand it's sort of, I guess I understand the approach to thinking about it in terms of that, but the reality is that yes, we are all human beings, but we are not treated the same. So while you want to think like beneath our skin colors we're all the same, that may be true, but in society that's not how people are treated. We're treated differently by the law, we have health disparities, we have income disparities, there are housing disparities, there are all of these disparities based on race. And so for me, this diversity ideology that just says, like we all need to come together and treat each other the same, like that is a very shallow way of addressing these difficult conversations, and it doesn't affect change. And so that's been the past few weeks. That's been really frustrating for me, again, because all of this is couched in things that I know about the university. The fact that there are fewer black students, the fact that there are fewer black faculty members, and so the university said that they want to, I know there's a plan to bring in more students of color, to bring in faculty, but it doesn't feel like they're doing it quickly enough. It doesn't feel like they're putting enough money towards scholarships, towards hiring black faculty members. So that again just feels like more of the rhetoric without the action behind it. And so specifically in the case of Santa Cruz, I really want the university to come out with their stance on the Black Lives Matter moment. Like, this is not something that's going to go, I feel like we're basically in the civil rights part 2, and the university, it would rather just kind of stand in the shadows. And if they want to be a leader, if the way that they talked about today, then I feel like they have to publicly, President Ono has to publicly take a stance and differentiate that from this All Lives Matter, which I've already seen students writing on this board that they're having, and that only further marginalizes our students of color because it silences them. When people say Black Lives Matter, they're not saying that other people's lives don't, right? And I really feel like because of this incident, we cannot ignore that this is a part of a much larger movement, and by doing so, we're just continuing silence on larger issues of injustice. And so that has been a major source of frustration for me with the university, because again, it just feels like there's all this rhetoric that they believe in change, they want diversity, they want to be an inclusive university, but it just feels like they're not willing to have these difficult conversations. I guess that's all I have.